be here. I want to thank my dear brother Benjamin Barber, not only for his witness, but his vision. It's been 9 years working on this institution, but it's been over 40 years being the public intellectual that he is. His works make a difference, and he has brought us together. Give him another hand. Give him another hand, brother Benjamin. We love him and respect him. But the tab is smiling, as he said, he's been my little brother for 25 years. He is like a blood brother. I will take a bullet for him, not in the arm, but in the heart, and that makes a difference. Because I know a whole lot of folk, I'll take it just in the arm. I'm blessed to work with at Harvard. We traveled the country together. She talking about race, and I talked about gender. So we turned the world upside down. On C-SPAN many a times. Brother Howard Dean, what can you say? I love his clarity. I love his candor. I might not always agree with my brother, but I love him deeply. Give him a hand. Give him a hand. He's always for real. He's telling the truth from his soul. We do agree on a lot, but we have some deep disagreements. That's all right. I think I'm right, of course, but we're going to work that out. Brother Cabral, thank you for the presentation this morning. Thank you for the leadership, not just in Harlem, but in New York and the country. Schoenberg is one of the most precious institutions. Give him a hand. Give very always important to have an artist in the house for Sister Tiffany, because I want to begin actually with the last line from Percy Shelley, the great pamphlet, Indefense of Poetry, that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. And Shelley was not talking about versifiers. He's talking about those who wrestle with the question of what it means to be human, who have what it takes to muster courage and compassion in the face of catastrophe. Dear Brother Steiner talked about courage. It's absolutely right. Intellectual courage, like his father, one of the last great men of letters, George Steiner. Moral courage, bearing personal witness. What kind of person are you going to be as you make your move from womb to tomb? What will they say about you in your coffin? What story will you situate yourself in? What narrative will you locate yourself in the short time that you're here? And then political courage. Who are you organized with? Who are you affiliated with? Who are you mobilizing? And in the end, of course, it has to do with what are you willing to live and die for? Those are alien questions in a market-driven society obsessed with success and the superficial culture of spectacle and stimulation and titillation, especially for our young people. I shifted my lectures from high schools, from colleges and universities to high schools and prisons, and I asked young folk, who will die for you? Silence, other than mama. That says something about a culture. They don't have people who are willing to die for them, to love them enough, to have enough courage to actually pay the ultimate price. And we live in a culture where everything's up for sale and everybody's up for sale. So when you talk about courage, we have a courage deficit intellectually. Who really wants to tell the truth? And Adorno's right. The condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. Who wants to deal with the catastrophic? 9/11 was catastrophic. I was there in the Marriott Hotel when it took place. I just spent 14 hours with my dear brother Freddie Ferrari. He was running for mayor. I wanted him to be the progressive and first Latino mayor. There was an election that day in New York City that was canceled because of the gangster attack. And the first thing that hit me was, my God. I've always said I was a blues man in the life of the mind and a jazz man in the world of ideas, and you have to deal with sorrow and try to find some sweetness in the midst of that sorrow, because sorrow is your constant companion. But what sweetness would I find in this? Those precious lives, each one of them, no matter what color, gone. And I said to myself, lo and behold, the catastrophic now will haunt every American. Every American will feel unsafe, unprotected, subject to random violence, and hated for who they are. I said, lo and behold, to be black in America. For 400 years, a sense of feeling unsafe, unprotected, subject to random violence, and hated for who you are. I had some of my white brothers and sisters come up to me after, Brother West, I can't get over this sense of being hated. I said, you don't say. Really? Ask Sister Letitia and Brother Jamal about it. What it means to be niggerized, to be cast in a condition of being so scared, intimidated, because of being terrorized and traumatized and stigmatized. Now it is an American condition. Lo and behold, there's a people in your midst who are on intimate terms with terrorism. 244 years of slavery, 90 years of Jim Crow, lynching every 2.5 days for over 50 years. Strange fruit the southern trees bear, that the Jewish brother Marable writing the lyrics and Billie Holiday singing the song, talking about the catastrophic, and America would be tested. What would America do in the face of being terrorized and traumatized and stigmatized? What did the best of black people do? What did Emmett Till's mother have to say when she stepped to the lectern and spoke about her child in the coffin in Chicago who had been terrorized, traumatized, stigmatized, murdered? What did she say? Did she talk about revenge? No. Did she talk about hatred? No. Did she talk about bigotry? No. She said, I don't have a minute to hate. I'll pursue justice for the rest of my life. That's the best of not just the black tradition, not just the American tradition. It was the best of the human spirit in the face of terror to still talk about justice rather than revenge. She didn't have to read The Merchant of Venice by Shakespeare to know the difference between justice and revenge. She had been shaped by a culture that put a premium on courage, a premium on compassion, not hatred and revenge and cowardliness. When we get them, who do they think they are? I said to myself, if black people had responded to being terrorized, there would have been a civil war every generation. There'd be civil strife. There'd be a crypto-fascist America would sail shot through every chocolate slice of the nation. Meaning what? Even in 9/11, you look back, where are the sources of moral, political, social sources of courage and compassion? There's Frederick Douglass. Here comes Martin King. There's Ella Baker, but it's not just a chocolate affair. No. There's Miles Horton on the vanilla side of town. There's Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel on the Jewish side of town. There's Dorothy Day on the white Catholic side of town. There's Cesar Chavez on the brown side of town. The very best of America had to respond to being terrorized and traumatized, and we've all agreed for the most part that we didn't meet the test. And one of the reasons why we didn't meet the test is because the best of who we have been, the great contribution of America to world civilization, from Emerson to Whitman, to Melville, to Twain, to Gershwin, to Sondheim, to Louis Armstrong, to Curtis Mayfield, to Carole King, to Aretha Franklin, acknowledging the dignity of those Stone call everyday people. The dignity of ordinary people, lifting their voices, which is the anthem of the blues people, the anthem of black people. Lift every voice, not just lift every vote. The vote is one expression of the voice. Sometimes the voice is in the streets. Just like we're going to the streets to deal with this stop and frisk with 600,000 young people. Stop and frisk last year, 2% arrested, 84% black and brown. White supremacy still operating, even with the mayor, with all of the accolades and applause he receives. They count too. That they matter too. So when we talk, in fact, about the impact of 9/11 as it relates to interdependence, we really talk about the raw stuff. And the sad thing is, I'm going to sit down. The sad thing is that the connection between the deficit in courage, intellectual, moral, and political courage, the obsession with comfort, the obsession with status, the careerism, the opportunism, running amok. Saw that movie, The Social Network, and the New York Times said the triumph of the human spirit. I say no, this is spiritual malnutrition and moral constipation. Greed, more money, and then putting a woman down with the B-I-T-C-H writing on the card. Is that the message we send to the younger generation? Get over by any means, obsessed with the 11th commandment, thou shalt not get caught. Survival of the smartest and the slickest? No. Tell my young folk at Princeton, I don't want you to be the smartest person in the room. I want you to have wisdom and courage and compassion and have a sense of history so you can pass on great traditions to those who come after you. Smartness is one of these narrow, market-driven forms of idolatry that generates an emptiness of the soul even when you end up with a whole host of material toys. We heard that from our dear banker brother. Appreciated your perspective in that regard. No doubt about that. Let me stop over.